Oh, I was muted the whole time. I was. Well, I'm sorry. This is. Oh, this is so embarrassing. Okay, so I've been blabbing this whole time, and you guys are like, "What?" Um, Unmute. Okay, so da-na-na-na. Hey guys, welcome to Under God Project podcast. Together we accelerate America to be one nation under God again. We just came off of a really late podcast last night. We had a long morning. We still had to get the family set up and everything, and something came my way that I thought was going to be very important for us to share and stay on top of while it's happening right now. So we'll get to that in just a second, and we're already running late for it. But what we're talking about today is religious liberty. So God makes families, families make nations. But religious liberty is the core responsibility that we have to create those nations. It is our core responsibility to create what our nation is to become. When the Mayflower Passenger, the first governing document of our nation is the Mayflower Compact. And in that compact, at first, the assumption of that compact is that these people are doing what God wants them to do, right? And so our religious liberty is the baseline for all of the other liberties that we reckon, all of the other freedoms that we recognize, all the other rights that we recognize. In the Bible, we don't use the term rights; we use the term responsibilities. And so it is our responsibility to recognize what God wants us to do, and then for us to do it. So, as we've said before, every human soul is divine. We are created in the image of God, and all men are created equal. And all throughout the Declaration of Independence, it continues to talk about that which is preached on sermons and over pulpits, which is the divine responsibility that we have to manage our government well, to throw off bad governments, to create good governments, and to create and to have biblical governance, righteous governance in the nations that God wants us to create, in the governments that God seeks for us to create. So there's some things I'm not cropped well in this thing. So we just came off a late one, and we're trying to put this together very, very quickly. There's something that's going on. I want to bring you into it. But like I said, every human soul is divine. They are connected to God. We are connected to God. Our souls are sovereign. Every human soul can talk with God, understand his voice, and discern truth. So that is the baseline of humanity. The baseline of being a child of God, the baseline of being a human, is that you have a divine right and responsibility to listen to God and understand what is good for you in your life, right? And then how to create governance and what governments and what government contracts we create and associate to. That's called religious liberty. Religious liberty is the right to conscience. It's not something just for churches. Okay, so when we talk about religious liberty, we're not talking about only what churches can do as they get bigger and they want to suppress people, or they want to grow and use people. So here's the way that it works for me. God creates... Hang on, why is that not recording? I hope everything's working right. I'm so sorry, guys. We're good, yeah, we're good. God creates families and relies on strong families to create congregations. Congregations create nations. So God makes families, families make nations. We create from congregations, we create civil society all the way around us, okay? So religious liberty does have to do with churches as far as it deals with the right to conscience for an individual, the same right to conscience from a group of people, going from England to Holland to the United States, creating their own colonies, and then creating their own governments in those colonies. Is the same right to conscience that people use to plant churches and have planted churches all throughout our nation. Okay, and so anyway, we want to get into it. So First Liberty, we're not associated with First Liberty. We just like what they do because they have a lot. They're very busy these days. Last year, they went 4 of their cases went to the Supreme Court, Now they're a nonprofit institute. They represent only religious liberty cases. 4 of their cases went to the Supreme Court last year. That by itself is the hand of God. That by itself is providence. Let me move that around a little bit. That by itself is just God's hand, right? So, they went to the Supreme Court 4 times last year, and they won all 4 of them. That means that what they were arguing, or what those cases were, particularly Lemon v. Kurtzman, but there's more. There's much more. All of those cases were overturned. They were all really bad religious liberty precedences that really shouldn't have been there to begin with, and so they were all overturned. And we have more religious, and because of that, we have more religious liberty now than we ever have in our nation, and therefore in world history. So it's a really important time for us to live in, because it's now God is doing his part. Okay, God is definitely doing his part in our politics. So we got to get that out of our heads, that God needs to, that the politics need to change around us. God is handling it, right, and he's already done it, and he uses people to do it. Right, he uses First Liberty and the volunteer volunteer lawyers and staff at First Liberty. He's using people that are want to go out about their normal lives and then say, you know what, I want to pray in my school. Don't fire me for praying in my school. I want to stay home and worship on the Sabbath. Why are you firing me for worshiping on the Sabbath? Right? And he uses people, so it still requires our courage. It still requires us, but a lot of that's done. Like, a lot of the road is cleared. We need to now go through it, and we've talked about it before, how when the children of Israel were brought out of Jerusalem, there's still a lot of Egypt inside of them, and there's still a lot of lies that they kind of had to shake off and figure out how to shake off in order to get used to the idea that God expects us to do certain things. And so First Liberty has just come out with it's the 3rd year they're doing it, but they're having an event today explaining the religious liberty index that they have in religious liberty in the States. And so the way this works is, let's see if it'll let me do it the way that here we go. Is it going to let me do this without the crosshairs, please? Thank you. Or not. I guess I'm going to have to use it. That's going to be interesting. That's not going to be fun. Interact. Here we go. And then scroll down. Am I interacting? You're going to let me scroll down? What is going on here? Okay. So, religious liberty in the States. So basically what you can do is go on to religious liberty in the States and see how your state ranks in as far as religious liberty safeguards go, right? Now, one thing about safeguards is, me personally, I'm very interested in what's happening, because not everybody thinks the same way about religious liberty as I do. Not everybody thinks the same way not everybody interprets religious liberty in all the same ways, and so there is a there is a they could be interpreting things differently. So just because the presence of one thing is there and the other thing is not, doesn't necessarily mean that's bad or good. It just means you got to look into it a little bit more. So you don't want to just go, oh well, hey, the top 3 states, I'm going to move to one of the top 3 states and I'll be fine. And you generally will be, but you want to look into each of those points, and then as well look at why they're there. I was interested. Last night we did a podcast on the Republican National Convention and in President Trump's speech. Well, we did that for other reasons. I'll tell you about that in a little bit. But we did the thing just freaked out on me. 1 second. You know what? I'm gonna come right back to that. Let's just jump right in. We're running late as it is. We'll talk some more in a little bit.
Back in the 90s, 2000s, it's very hostile in Colorado right now to religious liberty, and there's all kinds of problems that have emerged because of this changing political landscape. So we think that this work is important and something that we want even states that are friendly to religious liberty to be taking very seriously, be thinking about how to safeguard the future. The other thing I'll just say too is, and this is part of how we advocate and talk about the issues, is that we're trying to have a comprehensive index, so we're measuring everything that we can find that relates to religious liberty, but not all of them are made equal. Some of the statutes cover much broader protections than others. So some are very narrow, some are very broad, and again, part of why we make the data available for researchers, for other academics, is if they want to tweak and mess around with the weightings and say, hey, we want to weight this thing at 10 times because we think it's so important, or we want to weight this less, they can do that. We're making the judgments that we think are best to kind of give an accurate view of where the states fall, and especially as we're in the third year going into the fourth year, we're going to have more interesting data about trends, right? Where states are moving up, where states are moving down, and so look forward to sharing results with you all in the future.
So there are states that are doing better, there are states that are doing worse. No state is perfect, and so every state has something that they can learn from another state, and there are things that every state can do to improve religious liberty protections in their context. The results for 2024 are now live at religiouslibertyinthestates.com, so you can go there, see how your state is doing. There's a scorecard for each state with all the 39 items listed, whether your state has it or doesn't. For those of you who are here physically with us, we've got those handouts Mark mentioned, so the small handout, Securing Religious Liberty in Your State, and then the report is also available. We're going to hand those out in the back, but if you're online, you can download those from religiouslibertyinthestates.com or at crcd.net, the Securing Religious Liberty in the States materials available there. Please do be in touch. Mark and Paul are going to be around all weekend. For those of you who are physically here, please talk to them about the project, and myself as well, any way we can help you. But the contact information for us is all available on the website too. We're eager for pushback or suggestions or questions about ways we can engage. Let me thank you all for joining us for this live stream, and for those of us who are here live. And we look forward to...
We look forward to what? We look forward to buffering. Oh no. By the way, Jen will be joining us here in a little bit. We still got we still got the kids to get settled and get going, and so Jen's upstairs getting the kids' homeschool stuff ready to rock and roll. This would be great for homeschool, by the way. So it'll be cool here. What's going on here? Why are we buffering? Buffering. What is this? 1998. Internet connection? What's going on here? Connected. Everything's connected. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're good. Speed's going. It's going. Must be on their side. No, it's not on their side. Okay, it looks like what's happened is the previous connection that we had on our source here is cutting out on us, and so it's giving us a different source. So I'm gonna go in here and change that real quick if we can. Gotta move quick here because they're rocking and rolling on us. YouTube, and let's go First Liberty, and First Liberty Institute. That's not the one that's running. Let's take a look at the other one. I should have kept it up. I did keep it up. It's right here. They cut the feed. What's going on? Huh. that feed just stopped. It was on their side. Well, that's a shame. Okay, let's see if we can catch up with them. So let's go. Well, I hope they know. Religious Liberty in the States Index. See if we can get this up and running here. I'd like to chat with you guys about how that's going. Join us for the presentation today. It does start. Join live. We are live. And are they... Okay, I guess the feed moved. That's the oddest thing. I was looking right at it. It said it wasn't there, and now it's there again. But I think it is a... Well, it is a different link. Here we go. Appreciate you guys being with me here while we fix this. It's not...
Well, good morning, those of you who are here with us in person and those who are joining online. Those on the East Coast, good afternoon, who are joining us online.
Wait.
My name is Jordan Ballard.
It's only 20 minutes long. We've already seen all this. And then it just cuts out. So it's the same stuff. Yo. That is not live. Huh. Alright, well, let's be patient. Their feed cut off. So when we jump into... I wish I could share it with you. If I did, I'd have to go... Let me jump in and see what I can do here.
It was the end. 20 minutes is all they were doing.
One second. I'm going to do this for you real quick. Okay, so crap. So Jen just walked in. She was kind of listening while she was doing stuff with the kids and stuff. What was happening? What they said was at the end of the clip that we were looking at. Let's go into this one. At the end of this clip, as long as it's not.
Well, good morning, those of you who are here with us in person and those who are joining online. Those on the East Coast, good afternoon, who are joining us online. My name is
At the end
Jordan
of this
Ballard.
clip
I'm
that
Director
we
of Research
missed.
State, and then the report is also available. We're going to hand those out in the back. But if you're online, you can download those from religiouslibertyinthestates.com or at crcd.net. The Securing Religious Liberty in the States materials available there. Please do be in touch. Mark and Paul are going to be around all weekend. For those of you who are physically here, please talk to them about the project and myself as well. Any way we can help you. But the contact information for us is all available on the website too. We're eager for pushback or suggestions or questions about ways we can engage. Let me thank you all for joining us for this live stream and for those of us who are here live. And we look forward to
Okay, we look forward to. That's what threw me off. So clearly they're not going to be broadcasting the rest. I thought this was the beginning of a seminar. That's kind of what it alluded to be. But it's not. Okay, so what we're going to do then is okay, thanks guys. So what we're going to do is probably put together a different podcast that talks about where to go and look at how to look at the indexes, etc. Let's see if we can jump in on. I mean, we're already here. Let's see if I can jump in on this and manipulate it. So jump at Religious Liberty in the States. You can Google that easily. Into the methodologies and the codes and scoring, all that stuff. It's really interesting. And if I could scroll down, it's not my controls aren't letting me scroll down, so that's not fun. How all of the states rank, all that stuff, what you'll find is some really fascinating things. And so what I'm going to do is what we're going to do is we're going to have a different podcast dedicated directly to that. That just talks about the different types of the way that the ranking works, all the different states, the reports, the data, all that stuff, because in it are some really fascinating things. So I'm just going to do a quick example. I know you guys can't see it right now. So a quick example, if we were to, let's go to Arkansas. Okay, Arkansas is pretty good. They're ranked 4th in religious liberty ranking according to their state scorecard, and they have all sorts of different types of things like absentee voting, healthcare provisions, et cetera, et cetera. Let me see if I can actually change. Yeah, no. And Jen's messing with. Here we go. You know, all the way down to one of the things I wanted to talk about is houses of worship. So they have protections from closing, right? Are there protections from closing religious institutions like churches? Now, keep in mind, like I said before, that religious liberty is that churches are extensions of our religious liberty. They are not the definition of our religious liberty. And so we go to church because we have the liberty to do so. We create churches because we have the liberty to do so. We create a nation because we have the religious liberty to do so. So Jen is back. I'm gonna see if maybe I can mess around with something while she chats with you.
Well, that sounds exciting.
Yes, it does. I'm gonna pass that off to my sweetheart. How are you, babe?
Hi, good morning. Sorry, I am running behind here, and I'm apparently extremely out of focus. I'm sorry.
You're gonna be okay.
I don't know. It's probably not going to be fixed. It's fine. I'm used to being blurry now. I think in almost all of our podcasts, I have been ultimately blurry, but that's okay.
We are just, today's a day. Today's a day. We appreciate anybody who's watching today who hasn't abandoned the podcast.
I was watching from the other room, and I'm like, why can't I hear anything? It's extremely quiet. Like, is it my headset? I like reset my headset, reset my phone. I'm like, something's wrong. So I go out, and I'm like, are you muted? And he's like, oh, crap.
Oh, my goodness.
So I think it's just a miscommunicate. Oh, hello. We're just all over the place. I think that's the main gist of what I'm trying to get at here. But we appreciate y'all being with us and listening to us babble on. That sounded terrible.
Uh-huh.
When it comes to religious liberty, I feel like there's a lot of things that as Christians we take for granted because we live in a Christian nation. And this is going to be fun where I'm just blacked out in here. That's okay.
You're okay.
There's a lot of things that we can take for granted because our founding fathers knew that our beliefs in the Savior were so important that they needed to be in the, how do I put this? In the fine details. This is like woven into it. What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway.
Codified.
Sure. I don't know what that word means, but I'm assuming it's what I'm going for. That happens frequently.
It's okay. It's okay, sweetheart. You just
no, it's good.
Keep them going.
I didn't know what I was going to talk about this morning, so I was surprised that it was only a 20-minute thing that they were giving, but that's okay.
Well, you were surprised too. I'm not good. It's not just me then.
Well, considering we did Trump's speech last night and it was over an hour long, I'm like, oh, good. We'll have some time to get some good quality work in here. And then it was 20 minutes long, so that was just a little odd for me. Anyway, okay, back to what I was saying. So our founding fathers knew that the biblical basis on which they were founded needed to be in the founding of their new freedom that they were investing in the new nation that they were dedicating their lives to. And you can even go as far as to say their lives, fortunes, and sacred honors. Mm-hmm. You know, they were those of the Mayflower who came over first, who were the most impactful, right? And they started off with the Mayflower Compact, and they said, we need God here in our governance. And so they created the Mayflower Compact, right? That was the whole idea. So from the very beginning of America, we've had this biblical foundation. And this biblical foundation allows us to have the religious liberties of praying and worshiping God in the way that we choose. But in many different circumstances, it's come clear that those have been slowly been stripped away. Obviously not everything, but the fact that we weren't allowed to do it in schools, that's a huge deal, because first of all, the Mayflower passengers didn't even believe that a public school should be even a thing. They didn't believe that you should have public education. They believed that should all be done in the home. So then to have their freedoms of being able to pray and being able to worship God in the schools is like, whoa, see, this is what I was talking about. You don't have the freedoms that we procured for you. So how are you okay with this? How are you allowing this to persist in your educational
Well, good morning,
system?
those of you who are here with us in person and those who are joining online.
Stop it. Thank
That's
you.
okay.
Sorry.
I feel like I'm babbling anyway.
You're
so-
not babbling,
Okay.
and even if you were babbling, it'd be okay. Because you know what? I'm setting it up. Okay, I'm getting it, I'm working it out.
Okay. I'm just going to allow you to keep
Yes.
working it.
Almost there. Almost. Keep babbling. I mean, going.
Yeah.
We're gonna get it to work, guys.
No, but I love what the Religious the First Liberty Institute is doing. They've procured a lot of those rights that we were inalienable given. How?
Divine. Just
Sure.
inalienably given. Yes. that were procured.
all-
Okay. All right. I think we're ready.
So the rights
you'll-
that we were given to begin with, they're continuing to fight for them and say, no, you can't take that away. You give it back. Give it
Yeah.
back. Like, it's like demanding a toddler. Like, no.
No.
You don't get candy right now. Give it back.
Guys, there is so much. I really appreciate you bringing that up, sweetheart, because there's so much of our nation that is being destroyed because there's so much of our nation, our culture, our identity that's being destroyed because people simply won't take a look at treat the nation, treat our identity the same way that you would treat your children sometimes. Like, no, no, you can't have candy at 11 o'clock at night. Like, no, we're not going to. I don't care how much sugar you think you need. And I feel like nobody's saying no to these people in enough ways. Could you hand me my soda, please? I'm sorry. It's my
Way
turn to
over
talk.
there.
It's way over there. We're way behind. Okay, do you want to do the intro again? Because I think we got a good spot here. Do you want to see that
Do you
or
want to just
not really?
start over? Like,
Well, we're already live. We're doing our thing live. We'll definitely maybe cut it up later. I don't know.
and I
But,
apologize for the children in the background. They will be there. I will try
Yeah.
to be in and out and helping them. But
So we were racing to try to get these to get the immediate reaction to the seminar, but the seminar was just, we're having a seminar, and that was it. So that was not exactly what we had expected. But I saw this morning. So this is the third year they're doing this. This is the religious liberty in the States. Again, it comes from First Liberty. First Liberty has a long history of preserving religious liberty. And again, we are in a whole new time. Okay, this is children of Israel in the wilderness trying to figure out this. And if we don't figure it out as good biblical Christians, then someone's going to figure it out for us. And we're going to be in that tolerance standpoint again, where we're arguing about false virtues in order to justify doing nothing when we could be doing things early on. So what they've done here is they've created a ranking 1 to 50, because there are 50 states. 1 to 50 on how religious liberty is preserved in individual states. Go
I
ahead.
wouldn't leave yet because I feel, okay, or you can leave.
What's up? No, I'm sorry. Oh, the thing. Okay.
Yes. I think this is extremely important. I think there's a lot of people who don't know where their state actually stands on these issues. And they believe it as a nation that we have these issues nationally,
Right.
but I don't believe that they know down to the minute details of their actual state what
Right.
they should and shouldn't be fighting for,
Right.
or what freedoms they have been
Renewing.
oh gosh, my brain is just not firing today.
It's okay. Now there's mine. We're working
Just
it though.
reaffirmed, right? So making sure that they are still there. They are still something that you can use. Wow, you're just all over the place.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I gotta read because I resized the other one. I gotta resize this one. Let's keep going though.
Okay. Anyway, so I think if you guys get a chance, please, please, please go look at these individual states and look at what these liberties are that you currently have in your state and which ones you don't, because that's going to be a big deal for you come election time. You're going to be wanting to make sure that these are procured for you if that's something that you're interested in having.
It's interesting that you're using that type of language because I agree, right? I agree that it requires an active duty citizenship, right?
Absolutely.
Active duty citizens are the way that we protect
Emily, you take
our
over. I gotta
religious
go
liberty.
stop the screaming.
Yeah, Jen's gonna go handle the children the way that we should handle our nation, and so what she's talking about is we got to know what they are. If you don't know what they are, you can't use them. And we've talked with some of our partners in the past that if you don't understand what your rights are, then do you really have them, right? Again, like we said, religious liberty starts with the individual. It's your right to conscience because your soul is connected to God. Your soul is sovereign. You can talk with God, understand His voice, discern truth, and you don't need permission to do it. And so the way that we approach that language, the way that we approach governments is not so much that they're giving us these things, but rather that they're protecting those things, right? And so it's interesting to see how from a federal level we've protected religious liberty. We have more religious liberty now at federal level than we ever have. We have before in our nation and therefore in the world. So we have a whole new thing to go through. And then as well, all of the individual states have different interpretations of how they're going to protect religious liberty or define religious liberty or constrain religious liberty. And that's one of the things you want to be really watchful for, is especially things that say things that are in safety, is sometimes that in your pursuit for safety, you create an exception to that safety, to that safeguard, and therefore that exception becomes the rule, right? So if you have an HOV, kind of like I don't want to. How do I say that? What do I explain other than we were talking to one of our friends the other day, and we were talking about how, let's say the balanced budget amendment. I'm all for balancing budgets. We need to have balanced budgets all the time, not in exception. However, in the balanced budget idea, right, and the balanced budget proposals for a whole amendment to the Constitution, there's an exception that comes with that, right? So we should have balanced budgets, except for the time when we're in times of war or when we're in times of in states of emergency. Well, then what all that does is it incentivizes more states of emergency or more states of war, so that we can spend money, right? So we want to be really aware of how those safeguards work, because you're the one who needs to maintain them, right? And so I appreciate what they're doing, and I appreciate even the language that's being done. But just because it says safeguard doesn't mean that you don't have to worry about it, right? It doesn't mean that you don't have to be active, that somebody else has done it for you. You need to be really aware of what's happening in your state and all that other stuff. So is there anything you'd like to talk about before we jump into some of these results?
No. I
Okay,
think we're
good. All right, great. So let me break some of these down. So you can, this is the thing I was looking for here. So here's the map. Here's the list. You're on religiouslibertyinthestates.com, which is cool. And you have this very interactive map. I think it's really, really cool. one of the first things that I went to was like, oh, what has the top one, top religious liberty in the United States? Illinois. What? Like, why
Yeah, you
would
really wouldn't picture that one being the first. You're like, well, Florida's been making huge strides. You should think the Florida should be number one.
Yeah,
it's
what
number
is going
2.
on? Yeah.
But why is Illinois not being talked about?
It's got Chicago in it. Like, what are we talking about? Now, don't get me wrong. I know Florida's got, Orlando and and Miami. I get it.
I am
But-
interested to know why Illinois is number 1, though.
Right. So that's one of the things that's also quite interesting. So with these rankings, what you want to do is you want to study what's going on in there, right? Excuse me. With these rankings, you want to study what's going on in these things. You want to kind of pick your state and figure out what's going on, because realistically, when you jump in, you're going to want to then look at how they like what it's missing, what it has, what it doesn't have, right? So I love a lot of these. Some of them I'm really not that familiar with, as connected as we feel like we strive to be. Some of these things I'm really not familiar with. But let's take a look. With healthcare provisions, for example, they have everything but abortion refusal, the right to refuse an abortion, not limited in emergency. So we can you can kind of get an idea of what their stuff really is. One of the things that we've talked about before are these right here: religious ceremonial life, protection from closing houses of worship. Boom.
And it is not checked.
Yeah, and that one's not checked. Okay, so states of emergency, COVID vaccination, lockdowns. That's your lockdown thing right
so
there.
everything else is
right?
good. But when it comes
But
to that one,
Right. That means they can close churches down.
yep.
So that means that the citizenry hasn't yet said, not in my state. Now let's take a look at Florida. Now,
I feel like that's one of the most important ones too, and it's
Yeah.
interesting that it's left off.
Well, that's exactly the point, is that, you want to take a look at the details here. Now, keep in mind, this is First Liberty's ranking, all that stuff. I mean, if you're going to have different interpretations of it. That's why we have different states, right? So you'll see, healthcare provisions, abortion refusal, contraceptive refusal, sterilization refusal. Is there criminal immunity? So some of those things are really great. And then let's jump right down into here: protections from closing houses of worship. Okay, here
There's
we
Florida.
go.
All
There
right.
it is. Now we're starting to make sense. That's the reason why Florida's number 2. But for some reason, the rankings, the other numbers get in there and they
Well,
put
yeah.
one above the other, whatever.
And you're personally going to have your own ranking depending on
Mm-hmm.
what's more important to you.
Right. So, and there's some other things in here that parents, especially going off into colleges, that you'll be very interested to see: religious or philosophical exemptions from immunization, absences from school, and absences from public colleges and universities. There is
It's far away.
Is it
so he has to
sterilization?
use
Yes,
his
I have
old
to-
man eyes to go. Wait, what is this?
I have to look really close, guys, because it's as far away as the camera is. I think in the scorecard. Do we see it in the scorecard?
What?
The rationale behind things, right? Oh, that's gonna be too much. I'm not gonna read that. Well, I can't read it from here, guys. It's so far away. Let's take a look at the methodologies. Okay, so see, I really wanted them to. I thought they were gonna explain what all of these methodologies were on the call today, and that's why I was really excited
Yeah,
to be
no.
in there. But no.
One thing they did mention, though, I'm going to kind of go back a little bit.
Go ahead.
When they were looking at the ranking of states, they said that West Virginia is actually the lowest ranking state. And it's interesting because even last year they were 50th on the list as well. But the year previous, New York was. So it's interesting to see how drastically it changes. But between last year and this year, they've almost doubled how much they have. So they're actually making strides to make sure that their numbers are coming up.
One of the things that I appreciate here on all these, and you don't see this much transparency in methodology and research, etc., on a lot of these general scores, especially when you look at the stuff on the left. On the right, you see a little bit more. You see a little bit more identity here, or a little bit more. More to study here.
Sure.
They're exposing more of what they've kind of looked at. so I appreciate that. We can jump in and take a look at it, and then there's even the further way to go. One of the things that I thought was, to your point, sweetheart, is that you know, just because your state ranks that low, it doesn't mean it doesn't protect it at all. The baseline understanding that, hey, look, if your soul is sovereign and it's the thing that creates governments, and religious liberty is that which is creating the government. Just because it's low doesn't mean that it doesn't respect that. It doesn't mean that it's not hostile toward it, right? That's the other thing that a lot of us, you know, conservatives, people who are on the right, or people who are just interested in religious liberty, are really concerned about is, are you hostile toward, you know, my individual right to conscience, right? If you're hostile toward that, then that's a problem, right? Do I need the safeguards then? And so that's kind of one of the things in some of these really states that are hostile. Do they have these safeguards? Do they need these safeguards? I remember there was a case in, I think it was 2012 or 2014. The state of Indiana was instituting the Religious Liberty and Family Protection Act that a bunch of states had already put in the 20s, but they hadn't put in, and they didn't put it in the 20s because they didn't need it. They're like, we don't need to protect them. That's what we are. You know, we are religious families that have created and run this state. So we don't need to say that we're protecting it. Now, having said that, you do want to be very aware of what is happening, particularly since we have these new we're in a new era of religious liberty and right to conscience recognition, right? So anyway, so let's see if there's other things that we can get. I looked at this through my phone this morning.
I have
Where's
it.
that? Do you have that? Thank
Yep.
you very much. I looked at it through my phone this morning, and I thought it was really fascinating the way that some of the safeguards were put in place. Why don't you go ahead?
Not that.
What'd you do?
Sorry, I was trying to find out where it just is by itself.
Yeah, there it is. So let's go here. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at what Tennessee looks like right now, because that's where we are right now. Love the state pictures. These are good out of Chattanooga. So you've got absentee voting. It's interesting that that's part of a religious exemption. So one of the things that they do, one of the things that they are looking at is to say, hey, if for religious reasons you can't be present, what does it do? On the other hand, what I think your mind's going right to where I think your mind's going to go, right? So they express it in a different way. I thought they were going to show it, but I'm not able to pull it up quickly. They're expressing the methodology that says some states have a broad exception of whether it's voting or whether it's vaccination or whether it's sterilization or whether it's religious church closures, and some of them are just so broad that they include religious liberty, but some of them specifically say for religious, they have a specific religious exemption to it. Does that make sense? And so it's not, and so some of them, because you're trying to rank everything, some of them religious liberty is just kind of part of what the way it works. And so you want to be aware of, okay, is that acceptable to you? I mean, do you want to go someplace that is just that all religions are kind of made equal and treated equal, and religious liberty is the same as all these other ways of organizing? If that's the case, then religious liberty is actually at a greater risk in some of those areas where it could be at a greater risk in some of those areas where it's just kind of treated generally, where and there is a big difference in saying, you know, hey, religious liberty is core, it is foundational because it is our divine connection with God, and therefore we create governments and we create the governments that we submit ourselves to. there's a difference between that and then just saying, yeah, I don't think it's a good idea either, and it's not really, fair that we have to close churches. So let's just remove the religion out of it and be afraid of your divinity, of the divinity of your soul. So, anyways, I thought that this was really important. I thought we would just stop and take a look at it. I know this is kind of thrown together very, very quickly. Do you want to chat some more a little bit, or should we start closing it up? Okay, so we're gonna close it down a little bit. Our kids need mommy and daddy a little bit more right now than we thought.
And I think we've got a further topic that we need to discuss on a different podcast, because I think we need to dive deeper on some specific subjects. But I think the main idea here is just to make sure that your state is following the rules and laws that you wish for it to reflect. If it's got too many or if it doesn't have enough, that's for the people to decide, right? And each state is going to be governed differently, which is the whole idea of having states to begin with. They're not supposed to be done the same. They're not supposed to be regulated the same or have the same laws necessarily. So just make sure that you're in the state that most reflects your values.
Well, that's one of the things that we want to. I do want to bring up before we go. In the original, our original states, our original colonies, the difference between Pennsylvania and the border between Pennsylvania and New York versus all these other states is the difference between Quakers and Puritans, and they are religious. They are religious borders. Okay. So, and it was difficult when the early colonists were trying to figure out what kind of government they were kind of creating, because they had a different biblical definition of taxation, of bearing arms, of militia, of responsibilities, and they all looked at it then as though they were responsibilities, not rights. Right. So you don't want to look at what your state is offering, like you're shopping at, whether I shop at Walmart or Kroger today. That's not what this is. This is what responsibility do I have to create, and how will I therefore be able to glorify God in my home and in my in our nation. We have 50 different flavors of doing that. And hopefully, as we keep that as we keep God and honoring God in our North Star, just like it says in our compact, just as we continue to try to glorify God and honor God with our time and our treasure and our talents, then we'll be able to we should be able to reflect that in our states, in our communities, in our towns, in our town hall meetings, in our schools, obviously in our home. We shouldn't be afraid. And we don't need to be afraid anymore to be able to say, "Oh, I might offend somebody or get in trouble if I act out religiously, if I express my religious, if I express religiously, if I religiously express myself." If you're not praying in your town halls, it's because you don't want to. If you're not praying in your schools, it's because you don't want to. If you're not inviting God into your borders, it's because you don't want to. It's not because it's not allowed. Okay, and we kind of have to figure out how that. We have to shake off a little bit of that Egypt and figure out how that works with the whole. Well, for 50 years we've been hearing that it was going to offend somebody. Isn't that a virtue? Well, maybe it's not as much of a virtue as honoring God, and maybe there's a way to do it without trying to hurt someone else, or maybe it's not the religion that's doing that. Maybe it's just the way that you're trying to do it. So, anyway, let's close it up. We really appreciate your time, guys. The kids are just not letting us have a long one today, and I appreciate you bearing with us while we were getting the technology and didn't get the video we thought we were looking for and a lot of this stuff. So may God bless you.
May God bless America, and may God bless this American family. Have a great day.